heard from the west to the east. I worked in my craft and I prayed for my time on the scene. The man have never left my team. 19, learned the right creed. Nah, I'm not a right breed, but I might be. In my crease, Nikes, hit up my G. I'll still never sell out my theme. Well, you know about heritage. You go inherited. Don't chill with the sticks.
Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of Common Sense Pod. Today we break a record. We bring back Disunomics, IO, and he is now, or holds, if you like, the most appearances on this podcast. I think he's the second person. Anyways, IO is amazing on so many levels. There's a reason I keep bringing him back onto the podcast. He is the host of a popular podcast and show called Disunomics, where he makes economics, current affairs, politics understandable for average people. He breaks it down. He's funny, he's down to earth, and so this episode is one where we laugh a lot, we talk a lot, and we talk about a couple of different things. We talk about Ukraine and the treatment of black people. We talk about this tension between wanting to change a system, but you want to also stay outside the system because you don't want your intentions to be kind of sullied in any way. We talk to you about football, and we just have a grand old conversation. Listen, you want to listen to this one, you want to get some a cup of tea or drink, whatever it is, tune in, and of course let me know what you think about the episode at the end. Ayo!
Oh, what's going on? How you doing?
I called you like your dad or something. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, Ayo, go get the remotes. That's how you called me.
I sound like I'm about to chastise you.
Yeah, facts.
Which is not a... I'm sorry, I don't know why that's so funny. It's such a joy to have you back, man. Thank you for saying yes to doing another podcast.
Anytime, man. I'm always happy to be on.
I mean, I'm going to tell you something in a bit, but before, I just want to jump in because I want to get your take on this. Sorry, my Apple Watch is... Here we go.
Making noise.
You know how annoying Apple Watch users are? They always, if you're listening, you can't see me. They're always dramatic about the time. They'll be like, what time is it? What time is it?
What annoys me about having an Apple Watch is that I've like synced up with loads of my friends for their fitness stuff, and I get a notification. So look on watch thinking, I was the email, and it's just, oh, somebody just completed a workout. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
I get a lot of them as well, and because I'm uber competitive, the minute I see somebody's finished a walk, I'm like, okay, how are we doing this walk, Mike? Because this isn't going to happen. But no, I wanted to jump in on something I discussed last week, which I actually think would be great to get your thoughts on, because you're not a stranger to this podcast. So last week I obviously spoke about Ukraine. We'll talk a bit about Ukraine in a minute. But one of the interesting things that I spoke about was the treatment of black people, right? So I made this reel on Instagram, which you should never do, really. It's not for us, but it's for dancers, right? It's for the TikTokers. But I made a reel, and I got some feedback from people. I was answering the question that one of our listeners asked, which was basically about, Mike, what do you think about the way black people are being treated? I said it was abhorrent. Come and see my DMs. Some people were saying, totally stand with you, Mike, fight the power, right? But I also had a few people, oh, you guys make everything about racism, go away. Someone said go die. And of course, TikTok actually banned my video because they said my criticism of racism was hate speech, which I found very interesting. For those who can't see, Ayo's mouth is currently open in disbelief and shock.
Wow. Don't do these bad things to people, guys. Hate speech. What?
I reckon their algorithm probably got a bit confused.
Yeah. Because
I have no clue how you could read what I said as hate speech. But let's jump into it because a friend of mine did say as well, Sitogo Zale, she's actually she's been a guest before. She said, Mike, I loved your answer, but it was too short. You didn't go into it enough. You kind of brushed around it. So,
it's a real. It's not.
I mean, say that again?
It's Instagram reel.
I know, but she was saying on the actual podcast I could have went into more detail. So I just thought,
I'd
love you to go into some detail.
Instagram reel.
Yeah. So what did you think about kind of the treatment of black people from all the kind of different things we were seeing, in Ukraine?
Shocked but not surprised, I would say. That's how I saw it, because it's like, it's shocking that even in a time of war, when everybody's banding together, we're all trying to leave the same place because we all don't want to be hurt. there's still time for racial bias to take over and separate people as if these people are less than. Bear in mind, from all the witness accounts and videos you've seen, is women and children, they get priority, and then obviously men. In fact, it was legally said that men from the age of 18 to 60 who are Ukrainians actually have to stay. But to come and see dozens of witness accounts, videos, we've actually seen it documented, so it's not like people are tweeting stuff and we can't verify this, that even after it's women, children, men, and then maybe black people. So are black women not women? Are black children not children? Are black men not men? So it was just disgusting to see, and a lot of people from our community I saw on social media have a lot of sympathy and empathy and disgust for what's happening in Ukraine. And then people seeing that and like, wait, what? And I think that's where, and from what I've gathered from a lot of people's social commentaries, that why do we even care about other people when nobody cares about us? That's what a lot of people are starting to feel like. Why should I have sympathy for Ukraine? Which a lot of people did. You know, people, and I've literally seen real people say, do you know what? Why am I even pouring out my heart for this cause when people that look like me are being turned away simply just for the colour of their skin? They've committed no crime. There's a young lady that I follow, and she's tweeting about her experience of being in Ukraine, trying to get out, and I think she tweeted something today saying that where she is, she's currently surrounded. I mean, the region's currently surrounded, I think maybe by Russian troops, and they're trying to get attention of the authorities to help them get out. So I just think it's really heartbreaking that it's a very distressing time. People's whole lives, the way it is to get up. Listen, so imagine literally like within a day, you have to get up, leave everything, your car, your bikes, all the nice decoration you have in your house, maybe your peloton, your gym membership, your routine, and just take enough belongings that you can just walk around with and transport with, and up and leave, and you don't even know where you're going. You have no idea. You probably have a job or business or school or friends. You don't even know if you want to see them again. And on top of that, to have to deal with people discriminating against you and saying that you don't deserve to come to safety effectively because of the colour of your skin. And I think that's just disgusting. Absolutely. And it's heartbreaking to see. And it did make me very, very angry, because whether you're left wing, right wing, like politics, don't like politics, whatever, you're still, this is beyond that. This is safety. We want to get out of here. It's just too much for me, man. I can't lie.
I mean, I said it a couple of times, like, if war can't bring people together, I don't know. I don't know.
War does bring people together, just not all people. And that's what we saw in Ukraine. I think in the UK, I think COVID kind of brought people together. Like, it kind of felt like COVID brought people together. From what I saw, maybe it's too far removed. But what we've seen in Ukraine, war has brought the Ukrainians together, white Ukrainians together, white European Ukrainians together. But we're even seeing certain on news channels that say this is terrible, this shouldn't be happening, these are Europeans, they're not from third world countries.
Yeah, I found that narrative so odd, because, like, here's the thing, why would you even mention that? Like,
why is it coming to your head?
This is what I mean. But also, in terms of editors, to give people a bit of insight into how newsrooms work, right? You know, nothing's accidental on live TV.
100%.
You know, there's conversations had, there's, you know, meetings with editors, producers. These people meet beforehand to agree the line, the angle, what's going to be said. So how these very professional, you know, accredited people are standing there on live TV saying, you know, they're so well dressed, and, you know, it's Europeans. It's like, oh, like war belongs in the Middle East. As though, yeah, one person war is technically a Western import. It was this country that went around the world by fire, by force, trying to imprint their stamp of whatever you're going to call it, you know, the empire. So this notion that war is, and it's a shame that a lot of young people growing up, they've only known the Middle East for war. They've only known some of these countries as war-torn countries. But the truth is, they're not. War is you could argue, it's almost a Western import, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Like, we had, there was a war in 2014, Russia, Crimea, 2018, 2008, Russia, Moldova. We saw it with the fall of Yugoslavia in the late 90s. So war has something that's been in Europe. We had two massive world wars which originated from Europe. So this notion that war is just something that's far over there is absolutely totally insane. In fact, one of the main reasons why war doesn't seem to be made in Europe is because they warred so much, they're like, we can't keep doing this type of thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I even remember watching something on TV and they were like, they literally said blonde hair and blue. I was thinking, why are you talking about this? It's insane to me. And as you said, like this is not like somebody on Instagram Live. This is some of the biggest publications in the world. And for me, it's just like, to me, the way I see it is that they're showing how people think. Just on a world stage.
You know, this is a slight aside, but it came into my head that one big news story that happened this week was Serena Williams, arguably one of the greatest tennis players of all time. If you want to put female, you can put female, but definitely one of the greatest tennis players of all time. She has this new venture capitalist fund that raised £101 million. Right, to invest in the next generation of startups, the next generation of businesses, founders that are often overlooked. Amazing feat. The New York Times write a piece about her, saying that look what she's done. She's raised £101 million. Guess who they put as the picture? They put Venus Williams. They put another black woman. For those who can't see, Ayo's currently rubbing his eyes in disbelief.
You know when they do stuff like this, yeah? Because I've seen it so many times in football. They're like, one time they posted a story about Lukaku and they put a picture of Stormzy. Like to go to a point where it's happened so often, like, are they doing this on purpose?
Bro, I have to be honest. I sat down when I saw the Serena Williams and I thought, hold on a minute. How could the irony that you'd put this person's sister? You have to be playing at this stage. You have to so not care about these issues. Like, you have to so not care about kind of black people that you would stand up and say things like, these are relatively well-dressed, affluent, blonde hair. Like, to say those things, it's not just a mistake, because initially, and I said it, I forgave it because I watched the interview live, right? But because I was so interested in the war, what was going on, I didn't really get it. It was kind of tucked in. I was like, but after, when I watched it back, I thought, hold on a minute, why would you deliberately say blue? I don't know. Now, what it's done for a lot of people, as you've said, is it's made them really think about, the support that they were given to Ukraine before. People are asking themselves questions, and actually there's some that say maybe this plays into Russia's hand a bit, because Russia's narrative through his media outlets that he was trying to spin is that Ukraine is full of drug lords, drug addicts, and neo-Nazis, racists, and he's saying he's going into Ukraine to pacify and denazify all these Nazis, right, and get rid of them. I mean, it sounds like a genius stroke, because from what we're seeing, then people going, hold on a minute. And I have a friend. What we're like with conspiracy theories. I have a friend who's been sending me like, oh, this Western propaganda. Look at all the racism in Ukraine. Why are we even back in Ukraine? So on and so forth. Like, what do you make of that? This idea that maybe it's even playing into Russia's hands, all the racism we're seeing.
I definitely do think it does. If it's going to play into anyone's hands, it's definitely not playing in Ukraine, because the people who you're meant to be sympathetic towards are, or the groups of people that you're meant to be sympathetic towards have groups of people who are representing them, whether you believe they should be representing them or not. It's a different conversation, in a very negative light, in a very abhorrent light. And it does speak to, because I've seen like a lot of Russian propaganda speaking of Ukrainian fascists and racists, and how they're engaged in ethnic cleansing, how they hate Jewish people, Muslim people. And to be fair, I have seen videos online of Ukrainian soldiers dipping artillery into pig fat, because they know they're going to fight the Chechenian soldiers who are mainly Muslim. So it does play into the hands of Putin, but this is probably one of the few, maybe 1% or 2% PR swing in Putin's favor so far, because everything is going against him, that these people are somewhat like what I claim they are. Me personally, I'm very skeptical. That's the reason that Putin's going into Russia. I think it might have a little more to do with Ukraine being on their way to being, who could be one of the second petro state in Europe, and a bit to do with NATO and EU and more that stuff than anything. But yeah, it definitely does play more into Putin's hands than it does against Putin.
I mean, just to give people again a bit more context about this NATO point, because this is what one of people's kind of fear is Ukraine trying to join NATO? Well, it would be very difficult for the Ukraine to join NATO because of all the different, I mean, one, it takes a number of years, but also there's a bunch of different issues that would make it difficult to join NATO. Just like to join the European Union, there's a certain string of tests you have to pass. One of which is probably would be the biggest issue, is that you have no contested territories, and of course Crimea, that was annexed in 2014, is contested. So that's an issue. You know, there's other. I mean, let's not even go through all of them, because in my head, that's a big enough issue. The fact that because of Crimea, they're nowhere near joining, and you know, if it was to happen, it wouldn't happen for a number of different years. You know, I have heard the argument said that maybe, you know, this is a way for NATO, this is a way for Russia to kind of insulate itself from further issues long term, and you know, I've written about that, I've spoken about that extensively, and you know, I was reluctant to talk too much about what's happening on the ground right now in Ukraine, because it changes all the time, doesn't it? You know, we're hearing that Russia's tightening its grip on different cities. There's one city, I think it's Minipo, I forgot its name, but it's the first city that I believe has actually been officially declared as under kind of Russian control now, and no doubt Kharkiv, the second largest city in the Ukraine, is next, and we'll keep following it. I do want to kind of put a full stop on Ukraine for now, at least for this podcast. And if you want to find out more, you can go on tcsnetwork.co.uk. There's folks writing about Ukraine, and obviously, Ayo, you're a numbers guy. I've actually got a record for you. So I was doing some tallying, and you have the second highest podcast appearance on this podcast.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Well, up there. I'm up there.
Can't get enough, can you?
Come for number one. Need to get to number one spot. Need to annex that territory.
People listening are probably thinking, "Oh, it's Disunomics again." You know, he's better.
Oh, can we get somebody else? I heard this fella a few times already.
You know, people are like, it's always him. But here's what I realized. And by the way, we get you on. I get you on because I love talking to you. I enjoy kind of our conversations. But here's the thing, and this is not to take away from the achievement, but there's not a lot of you. What I mean is, black, kind of young. I don't know how long you want to hold on to that for, but you know, do you grunt when you stand up now, or?
No, I'm good. I grunt when I come back from football. I'll tell you that much.
I grunt when I sit down. I said, I'm like,
okay. Oh, if it's a long day, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe, yeah, I think I do. I jump into my bed. That's why I sit down the most on my bed. I usually sit up on my bed. So
yeah, and just think about life. Think about all the life pouring out of you. Anyways, there's not a lot of you young, you know, black, and interested in politics. I wanted to talk about this idea, like, you know, why do you think politics is such an economics? Why do you think there's such kind of taboo words in the black community? I know some people may even go, no, it's not. But listen, I've been around since like since I was 13, 12, kind of working in this kind of arena. And I know that when I mention politics, just that word, for a lot of my friends who are majority black, they're like, yeah, allow it. We don't want to talk about that. Why do you think that's the case?
I think I look at it in two perspectives. I think it's probably taboo in a lot of communities anyway, because people tend to have quite distrustful politics, and when people have different views, it gets very heated and it can change people's perception of people. And another reason I think is specifically towards our community, because of the way people have been treated. So if you look at Caribbean people, that's Windrush generation. If you look at black African people, a lot of us experience a lot of racism and bias because of the way people dress, or the way people speak, and so on and so forth. People associate, I think, politics, economics with the establishment, and a lot of people's experience with the establishment is far from positive. So I think that's probably one of the main reasons, because they see it as politics, or those are the people that make our lives hell. So that's what I think it is personally. Similar to the police. Police is like another extension, I would say, as well.
So would you, and do you think you'll ever because you're a commentator, you've done a bunch of pieces and bits and bobs with outlets, but do you think you'd ever go all the way in and actually work within politics, either as a politician or as do you know what I mean?
Sometimes I think about it. Sometimes I think I'm not sure if my personality is best fit, because there's a certain level of collaboration that you have to do.
You're not collaborative?
I don't believe in. Yeah, I'm collaborative, but I don't believe in stupid collaboration. Like, for example, if I was an MP and you told me to vote against, like during COVID, for example.
Sorry, say that one more time. To vote for what?
Do you know, like, for example, during the COVID times, like the MPs will vote against the school meals until Marcus Rashford made them do a U-turn, and then again, I'll vote by stopping the £20 increase to universal credit, like stuff like that. Like, if my chief whip told me to, I'm like, no, that's wrong. I'm not doing that. So I don't know how best, but it'll be good to see if there's a way I could fit into politics. So I'm actually very, very interested, and when I do read certain things, I just feel like, why is nobody doing anything about this? There probably is people doing something about this, but probably not enough. So sometimes I think about it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I feel, nah, it looks a bit long. But
because it is that kind of time, as in we are becoming ripe. It's a very Christian metaphor. The time is ripe for a potential move in that direction, right? And yeah, I mean, it is interesting because activism is very different to actually collaboratively bringing people together. We all have 100%. This habit of thinking that our experience is like the universal experience, and it only takes stepping out your echo chamber or speaking to different people to realize that the way I was raised in Southeast London in Woolwich. After church, we run to Tasties to buy some puff. Then we run back into church, play for hours, wait for the 180 bus, go back home, jump on the 177 to Thamesmead to school the next day. Like, that whole experience is a very unique experience that I've realized not a lot of people share. So how do you actually step out of that and start to like how do you navigate meeting people who aren't like you or haven't had your life experiences?
Because by being open, I find it very, very easy, if I'm being perfectly honest with you.
Hey, just a quick one. I'm here to say, if you are enjoying this episode, then please, please, please do me one favor. Hit the like button or the subscribe button. As you know, this episode and all these episodes, they're free. We make it so you can enjoy it. And the one thing you can do for us that would really help us grow and reach more people and get even more interesting guests on is, of course, for you to hit that follow button or the subscribe button. So please take a few seconds to do that and enjoy the rest of the conversation.
That's one of the easiest things. Like, I find it very easy to adapt and understand the people because, one, by actually giving a damn and being able to step outside yourself and just take in and analyze somebody. So when I speak to people, because I'm a people watcher, I'm quite observant, I can kind of tell roughly what type of background that they've come from because I'm speaking to so many people and I actually listen. And then you start to notice patterns. Okay, cool. I come from this area. I do this for a living. Okay, you're more likely to be something. But I just think, by just being open-minded and just be interesting to know where people come from, what people are interested in, and that's when you start to realize that we're not a monolith. Like, you can meet 10 people from the exact same area, but they're interested in different things. So even if you take my group of friends, for example, in my spare time, I will watch YouTube videos, documentaries on politics, finance, NFL, battle rap. Some people just spend their spare time watching cars, tech. I know some people they're really into movies, so they'll know, this actor's was rubbish in the film, was going this film. This new film has been produced by this director. I know it's good. Whereas me, I'm thinking, when's the next Avengers out? So many different people.
No, you're not DC. You're not a Marvel guy, are you?
I'm not even a Marvel guy, but I watch all the Marvel films, so
Got you.
I couldn't tell you the history. I don't care like that. Whereas, like, if you talk to me about battle rap, I could go into it for time. Where some people, their thing is fashion, their thing is politics, their thing is tech, their thing is arts, their thing is train spotting, like, we're all so different, and I learn about things because when I speak to people, I take a genuine interest in what they're into, even though I know nothing about it. I listen, I ask questions, and that's how I start to learn. And when you take interest in people, you learn about them, you learn about their background, and people are more when you show, if you speak to somebody and you're showing no interest in what they're saying, they're not going to continue to talk to you, let alone open up to you. But if you show people that, this person's interested in what I want to say, slowly but surely, whatever velocity it is, they're going to tell you more and more about them. Then you start to know people's experiences. And that's why in my workplace environment, I've learned about so many people, how they've grown up.
Yeah.
So now I understand different types of people. So that's why unlike, I'm not going to say unlike, but from what I've run the black community, right? Working class black community.
No way.
Yeah. But I could understand. So a lot of people think, as black people, we have it terrible. Nobody's like that. So it's like, but because I've spoken to people, I know that working class white people in Manchester, in Stoke, in Middlesbrough, in Bradford, in Hull, their experience is pretty similar to ours without the added je ne sais quoi of racism, to be fair. But
that's a very distinct quality of a racism.
Do you know what I mean? Like the lack of opportunities, the lack of investment, the having to raise people in the, like, it's quite similar. But because I've taken time to listen and speak to people, so yeah, I don't actually have that issue personally.
Have you seen this? I hope you've seen it. It'd be a shame if you haven't. This series, it was on BBC Two, Black and British. Have you seen it?
I think I saw that.
You've got to take a look at it. Essentially, what it is so they bring together like black people from, I guess, across the political spectrum. You've got like a gay drill rapper, I think just a gay rapper with like a Black Lives Matter, supporting kind of professor who's an activist, very kind of defund the police. Then you've got a right-wing a black political commentator, and they bring them all together in one house. And these guys are
I think I've seen that. That's put on quite recently, right?
Yeah. Have you seen it?
I need to watch that. Yeah, I've seen it advertised. I've seen clips. I actually need to watch it.
I find it so fascinating. I loved it for one reason, that it showed. I mean, I don't think it achieved much in the, just a lot of arguing back and forth, which you can imagine. But it showed for a lot of people that there's lots of different types of black people who have different perspectives about how the world should be organized. Because if you look on Twitter, it seems like there's only one way, doesn't it?
100%. 100%. And that's why when you see somebody who speaks against that way, it's like, what? Are you crazy? And sometimes that person's been me. Sometimes I'll be like, I don't really agree with that, It's like, how dare you have an opinion that's contrary to all of ours? Are you insane? But that's the reality of the world. You can't, in the world, so many people are different. So many people are different. And that, from what you described, sounds perfect. There's like this YouTube channel that my missus watches. I can't remember what it's called. It seems like Canadian or something. Where
it's called Jubilee.
A load of people. Yes. And then you get like a load of people who are like meant to be belonging to one identity group.
Yeah.
And then they ask some questions, agree, strongly agree, somewhat agree, disagree. And you see how, although all these people may look and dress and appear to be the same, they can still have different views on different topics because we're human beings, and that's the beauty of life.
That show is hilarious. How they find the people, I don't know. They'll be like,
insane casting call. Insane casting call. Insane.
They'll find like a millionaire, low wage worker, pro euthanasia, someone who wanted to die but didn't die. I'm like, where are you finding? Where are you?
Their recruitment team is A1. If you can build a super army, I'll get Jubilee as the headhunters because they find any type of person.
It's funny because there's a series we've been working on at Common Sense for a bit now, which is called Common Sense Coffee. But that's the working title. We'll probably change it when it comes out. We filmed the first proper full episode just last week, where we basically got a vegan, a very passionate vegan, and a meat eater. And they both came together in my living room because we filmed it in my space, and they had to try and learn from each other, and yeah, it didn't go well. That's what I'm going to say. I won't spoil the episode because it will be out in a couple of weeks, but
that's definitely one to watch. Brian.
It didn't go well. Let's just put it that way. I was secretly like, let me not say too much. Anyways. People are very tribal these days, I find, and I don't know how deep this is, but it's something I've thought about, and I would love your thoughts on, because take Black Lives Matter the campaigns as following George Floyd. I've been thinking about this deeply for like 3 days for a number of reasons. One of my biggest fears about that global moment was that it would be a moment and it wouldn't lead to anything tangible. So I was really hopeful that things would actually change. I've been interested in systems change since I was a child, right? So in my head, I was like, I hope all this Black Lives Matter stuff actually leads to something. Now I did a bunch of panels, a bunch of speeches, a bunch of stuff, and I said the same thing during that period. I said, whatever new system we want to build, if we're serious about this new system, it's gonna have to include white people, black people, institutions, Asians, individuals. Like, if you're going to rebuild a system, it's got to include as many people as possible. So if we want to change the police, obviously there's a bunch of things we need to do, whether it's defund, whether it's reinvest, whatever language you like, you pick. I don't really care. I'm just interested in at the point of delivery, but also in terms of the working ladder. I just want everything to be as fair as possible. But I've encountered people, I know lots of people who go, yeah, the police should change, but I don't want to do anything with the police. We need to stay away from the police. We don't need any black police officers. The whole thing is corrupt. The other thing's broken. What do you say to those when you encounter those opinions? How do you engage with them? The folks who almost believe that we should rebuild a system, but like away from the current system we have, just like by ourselves in like the corner. So during the show I'm telling you about, there's like this local police force, which is essentially people who police the police or police themselves, like a group of men who, and I think there's some women as well, who basically say that they're going to police their neighborhoods, and away from the actual police, they're going to do it themselves. What do you make of all that stuff?
I get it and I don't get it. I get it because it stems from frustration and a lack of effectiveness from the institutions at hand. But if you want to remove something because it's bad and build something that's better, why are you saying if we build it again it's going to be bad again? That makes no sense to me. Like, if you want, let's say for example, you want to revamp the police, surely you want to be a part of revamping the police, because you don't want to create a system where it's going to be, basically, for example, if we're talking specifically to black people, for example, right, who have been disenfranchised from the police, there's a lot of any stat you want shows that there's a clear bias going against black people from police establishment. Cool. So if you want to strip down this current system into complete rubble and start again, it is imperative that we are also involved in the process to deliver this new system, so we don't create, so there's no chance of the same type of machine being created to create the same outcome. Because we always speak, and a lot of these people will, I'm sure 9 out of 10 of them will say representation matters. So in the decision making process, we have to be there, because there's certain things, as you said, as you mentioned before a couple minutes ago or 5-10 minutes ago, about your experience living in like Woolwich and that type of stuff. There's some people who's going to be trained to be a police officer. They're going to be trained from up north. They're going to come to London, and they're not going to be able to understand how to interact with people who might come from the same community as you, and vice versa. Let's say you're any city London kid, and then you've gone to become a police officer in rural West Midlands or something. You might not have the understanding of how those people operate. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's very important that any system that is curated from the jump is very inclusive of everybody. So
listen, there's some people listening that hear you say that they would not like the fact you said that, because they would say that we need to build, they don't like the institutions that currently exist, and so rather than adapting it, their thing is break it down and let's start again, or let's do it apart from the current systems like that currently exist, right?
But you live in a sovereign state. You can't just make up your own rules. Like, it doesn't work like that. It unfortunately doesn't work like that. Like, if people want to create their own schools, that's different. You can go and get accreditation to run certain curriculums, and it could be, that's cool. I'm all for that, because we see Catholic schools, Muslim schools, private schools, so it's no different schooling. But when it comes to stuff like law enforcement, that has to be a centralized thing. You can't just have a vigilante law enforcement. Like, although I do believe that communities should be able to somewhat police their community.
I think police is a heavy word. I think it's probably where we're getting stuck, is that it just seems
somewhat like have like influence over your community. And I think once you get a good community feel, you probably don't even need certain power. In certain communities, you don't even need certain powers, where in certain areas, like if so and so's mum come out the street and say, yo, you boys have safe and stop, off the strength of, I know so and so, that's his mum, I'm going to listen and behave myself. That's community. You didn't need a decree from Parliament or anything to do that. Same way if, let's say, an elder gentleman came and say, yo, I heard you boys are doing this, you can't pick on this person. In a community, people respect that because, first of all, this guy is twice my size, he'll beat me up, and he said so. You don't need police power to do that.
And you know them as well to some degree, right? These people look like you, they sound like you.
Accountability, reverence, respect. So it'll be good. I'm not sure if we still have that. I can't speak on areas because I live alone, so I don't live in my local area anymore. But I still believe that there's some remnants of that still in the UK. I think we're being quite, especially with the way housing is right now, everything's becoming quite fragmented. But I don't believe you can destroy a system and then create your own.
I've thought about this many times, and like I said, it's kept me up at night a couple of times where I'm thinking, you know, as someone who, like, I used to march on the street all the time when I was young. Anytime there's a march, sign me up, mate. You know, I'd love a march. You know, I just love the good march. And I still do. I still believe in protest. I believe in civil disobedience. I believe in these things wholeheartedly. But the more I'm in meetings and conversations where things can actually change, the more I'm kind of work out. The more I'm struggling, if you like, to draw a line between that purist kind of motivations I had when I was young, which was just like, you know, this is the world I want to see, and I would just talk about the world I want to see. And then when it comes time to building it, you realize it's not just you're not in charge. No one's in charge. I mean, I hate to break it to people, but even the prime minister isn't in charge. Like, no one's really in charge. We all have a certain amount of control and influence and power, but in a liberal democracy, it's shared. So when it comes time to actually building these systems, when I start realizing that, oh man, I actually have to bring other people along, or I have to, you know, get other people involved, then that purist motivation I had before feels like it's been kind of, you know, chipped away at a bit. And I'm like, oh, so I have to actually go and meet the police and sit down with them and start talking about like how this ward is being, you know, this and the stop and search numbers and why there's an engagement part that I don't think enough people get involved with. And you can tell, I can tell someone who's not interested, who doesn't work in systems change when they tweet or write articles, because you read it and you go, this is just a wish list. And that's very important. Wish lists are important. They lift aspirations. But if you want to change something, you have to get dirty. I don't mean that your values should be corrupted. Absolutely not. But I mean, you have to get into the mix and negotiate and compromise and pull this way. And you'll win some battles, you'll lose some battles. But that's kind of why politics is such a powerful engine, right? Because, well, yes, you can build a business and just donate to charities and do stuff yourself. But we saw it during the pandemic. Like, politics is still a massive engine for change, for social change, right? There's a lot you can do through politics. And I always thought to myself, if I ever go into politics, that's going to be why. Because I've realized this is an issue, and I've identified that politics is the best way for me to go and solve that issue or make it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and everybody knows this, because that's the reason why when there's something going wrong, they blame the government. So it's not like we don't know this. That's the irony of the matter. We know where to go for a lot of things. But saying, yeah, it's government's fault this is happening. Okay, cool. What should we do? I want it to be like this, that. Okay, cool. How are we going to do it? No, we're not going to go to government. That's long. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, so yeah, I'm with you. I was quite philosophical like that. But obviously, the older you get and the more you step into the world and you realize that life's all about compromise. Because, yeah, a group of us could want A. But what if there's just as many people that want B? How do you decide whose cause is more valid?
That's what they pay.
We're in a democracy. We're in a democracy.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I was on one panel one time and somebody said, you're telling us to vote, but what if I vote and a party I want loses? I'm like, my guy, that's life. Like, what made, like, Like, why should the party you want win?
That's not how you answer them. Of course, you give it.
I pretty much said that. I said that's the process, because as much as you have a right to vote, so do I. So if you vote A and I vote B, why is it that you should win over me? Why? What's the basis?
Do you reckon this? I hate to sound like this uncle, right? But do you reckon this generation, we've kind of lost the sense of, winning and losing, and the importance of, like, within your lifetime you will lose, but you'll also win. And having that balance.
I think a lot of the some of it is good, because it kind of encourages, no, we're not going to take losing for an answer. Life doesn't have to be like this. We don't have to accept the status quo. So that's the positive. The negative is that I think it also does delude people from reality, because this is still a concrete jungle. Like, it's still survival of the fittest. It's still survival of the fittest. What we're seeing right now, I know we say we're not going to talk about Ukraine and Russia, that's still just typical concrete jungle. Territory versus territory. I want some more of that territory. I'm going to take it if I can. I hope people know that if people were able to take more territory, they would. Every single country, if they could take more territory, they would. If USA knew that they could take over Mexico and Canada and nobody will beef them about it, there'll be minimal life loss, they will just take over because they can. And that's just the nature of the world. So I do think that there's also a lack of what's what I'm looking for? That being resilient and tough and dealing with the ebbs and flows of life has been kind of demoted. Yeah. And kind of like, it's like, oh, things are bad. Things shouldn't be bad. Sometimes things are going to be bad, unfortunately. Like, that's just the nature of life. You can't predict life.
You sound like that uncle that will bring the young children on their lap and go, sometimes you will lose. Sometimes you will win. But it's the reality of life. But in all things, all glory to God. You sound like one of those.
There's 7 billion of us trying to navigate life. 7 billion of us are trying to get to certain places, put food in our families, put food on our families' tables. So sometimes things can go wrong. Obviously, we live in a society. I think it's good that we aspire to eliminate as much of the negativities in life. But it's like, come on, let's be realistic. Like, if if let's say 50% of people think the best way to govern from now on is I don't know, give everybody universal basic income of $5,000. Some people might think the best way is to not use the money to do that, but the best way is to invest money into certain projects that allow people to be self-sufficient going forward. Both sets of people want the world to be a better place. One person thinks we should go west, one person thinks we should go east. Who wins? How do you decide who's more valuable, whose point is more valuable than other? So it's just about collaboration, as we said. We have to collaborate.
We have to, man. And this is why I think it's so good that your platform.
Not all the time, though. So sometimes some things are right and wrong, like racism. Some things is just right and wrong. There's no collaboration.
Imagine collaborating with racists. Not gonna
exactly.
Happen. Not gonna
exactly.
Happen.
Some things in life are collaboration, no, and you have to do this because it's right and wrong. But sometimes some things are more grey areas, and it's just a matter of opinion. But yeah.
Well, no, I just wanted to hear more about your platform, because obviously this kind of commentary and what you're doing right now, you do on your own platform every week. I feel like you've put out quite a lot of episodes.
Yeah, I've gone to twice a week.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I have a podcast called Disunomics. So it's quite broad, but it's very much like trying to give people information and news. So I can have a topic. So the last 4 pods I've done have been on Ukraine. So different perspectives on the Ukrainian crisis. But I've also had a pod called Economics of Perfume. So I'm taking things that people see every day and kind of giving people like behind the scenes knowledge, information, trying to make learning, education, learn about current affairs fun and entertaining. So one week it could be a podcast literally on foreign exchange. Why foreign exchange, why exchange rates matters, why the pound going up changes or makes your holiday worse. And the next week might be the economics of makeup, and I'll have a makeup artist on telling you why so many more women are using makeup, different types of makeup, how the industries change. So that's my platform. I now drop podcasts 2 days a week, so Monday morning and Thursday morning, and yeah, that's what I do.
Twice a week. Why is there a reason why you moved from once a week to twice a week?
I'm trying to get more consistent. I'm trying to put out more content, and that's just a main reason. Obviously now I'm taking on advertisers as well. So obviously, the more pods I do, more money I make. So that's some capitalistic reasons. But yeah, I just wanted to get into a swing of putting out more content because people want more from me. Yeah. So
we need to obviously have you take over the top guest spot. So.
Listen, I told you I'm coming to annex that spot as well by force.
Too soon.
Yeah.
No, that's good, man. No, I always appreciate you coming on, and I
thank you.
This felt like a bit like a therapy session because I'm
yeah. I know, for
but
people
sometimes
who
you
know,
need this.
You were on my podcast not too long ago. Great episode.
Yeah, that was pretty okay.
So many people said, I didn't know what was going on, but that episode told me everything I need to know, and
that's
that makes
superb.
Me happy.
Well, that's the goal. That's the goal. I think, you know, I am thinking about, you know, business is very busy. So, you know, I spent a large part of my day. I was complaining on Instagram today about just meetings. That's all I do. And so when it comes to content and the engagement with the world, I am also rethinking. Do I want to break things down and make things simple for people to understand? Do I want to get really deep and really nuanced and maybe just get a column on a newspaper and just write that? Do I want to get a show and do a show with like a TV channel? That's something I've been exploring in the past. I'm just trying to think about the best way to contribute, because I don't know about you, bro, but sometimes it feels like there is so much noise. But I'm always very, very careful to ensure that I'm not contributing to the noise. So I don't assume that my ideas are important. I don't assume, like friends who know me. I ask them for everything. I'm like, do you think I should do? Is this? Because I don't want to just assume that, because everyone assumes their points are important. That's why folks who know nothing about European history, are jumping in and just tweeting and saying all sorts of nonsense, and you can just tell they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. And I know I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to sound all elitist. I'm not saying that you have to be an expert in everything to have an opinion. Of course you don't. But when you're trying to break things down or explain things, it's like, the one guy, this is when the war first happened, like just literally just Russia's invaded, what's going on? And he's like, oh, just by the way, guys, France also has holdings. I was like, hold on. Why is this relevant now? It's given that kind of, when someone asks, in an exam, they ask you like, what happened in 20 blah 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 with this country, and you just write everything you know about that country, and you'll be like, the answer is in there somewhere. That's what a lot of people just type in stuff that's just like copied and pasted online and just nonsense. They just go, just stop.
Yeah, like
1 minute ago you're a vaccine expert. This next week you know what I mean? You now moved into foreign affairs and geopolitics.
It's insane. And the thing is, like, I'm proper when it comes to I'm proper far from being an elitist. Like, because see me, I've learned so much because I've spoken to people who know way more than me on topics. So I ask questions, or I have an opinion, and I speak to somebody who who knows way more than me on said thing. And then if it matches my opinion, okay, cool. Maybe I dig my heels more into that opinion. And if it completely shows me what I think is completely wrong, I discard that opinion immediately, because it's all about learning, and truth and accuracy is king. So what I don't understand. So I know some people who some people come to me and said, this can sound really silly, but I think this. I'm like, don't say silly, bro. Like, if I was going to talk to somebody about physics or biology, I know nothing about biology, I know nothing about nutrition, I'll probably be in the bottom 1% of intellect. So don't feel away. I have issues with people who have 0 to 0.5% understanding. On top of that, their intellect is not there. Because sometimes you can not know about a topic, but you can be smart. You're not even smart on top of that, and you're being like forceful with your point of view, saying, nope, this is right. And then when people who know more than you and say, oh, do you know, and they're not even coming at you with aggression, they're not coming to a point and say, oh, do you know what you said about Ukraine is not true, because here's what I know, now you're being combative.
Yeah, I
that's
hate
what
that.
I don't like.
But you know what it is? I've realized I'm too thin-skinned for Twitter, because I was telling a friend the other day, I very seldom read like what people say, all that kind of stuff. I don't, not that many people say stuff anyways, right?
You're not missing out much.
And everything would just say request in the DM, so just whatever. But here's once I think I was there was a kind of back and forth happening, and I think I said something about something, and someone quoted it like, "You're so stupid," and for some reason that just hit me.
That's standard Twitter.
Like when I say, listen, this is something you should read and be like, whatever. Like, this is probably a child saying something. I need to look like a kid, but for some reason, for like the next 2 days, I was just thinking about it, like, what a rude young man. Like, you're right. It's because people just don't say that. You don't have a conversation. I don't think I've ever heard someone in real life look at me and say you're stupid.
So I was like, because don't do that. There's real life consequences to doing that. But they could. So even for example, yeah, it's just the audacity of people. So somebody was like, "Oh, Putin, Hitler, all they. The only reason they did this stuff is ego." I'm like, that's not true. So obviously to me
they
that
just
is
read
a
ego.
really,
They just read ego as the enemy.
I just when I saw that, I thought this is really, in my opinion, that's a ridiculous opinion. But maybe because of the way it's represented to you and your lack of information on this topic, so I'm like, nah, this is what happens. This is geopolitics. Here's why. And somebody said, this just sounds like ego. Like, and I saw them make another snide comments like, "Oh, you're so dumb, you're so dumb." As I said, so I said, no. Some countries believe that they act in their best interests. So if they believe a country is going to make this move and come to their borders, it's in their best interests to stop them from coming and attacking. I'm not saying in this Russian example. I'm just saying in general, countries act in their best interests. They invest in military not because they think it's fun; it's to protect their people. Do you know what I'm saying? And somebody said, "Isn't acting your best interest ego?" I said no. Acting your best interest is basic human rationality.
I can't
It's
do.
basic human rationality. and like, you're the person who's insulted me.
Yeah,
it's just common sense.
I can't. And you know, I think we spoke about it before.
So if your kid's crying, and you go to pick up your child and cuddle it to stop them crying, is that because you have an ego? It's in your best interest and your child's best interest. It's common sense. It's rational.
You know, the thing is,
the right thing.
So this is the thing. Like, the fact that you have to explain that is ridiculous. So at that stage, what I've started doing, which I don't often do, is I just block people.
Oh, my block list is, I've got over 600 people blocked.
Really? Okay, I only have 15.
Yeah, but I'm more online. So if I see you, like, I'll just be unnecessarily rude, block, trying to slander me for no reason, block. Like,
block.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, it's my social media. I'm not going to get worked up. First of all, I don't get worked up because I know all of you will never say anything to my face at all. It's just, I just don't want your energy here. I'll rather be able to open my mentions and see people who are making me laugh and who are asking questions, who want to interact in a positive light. So if you're not going to come in a positive vibe, you don't need to be here. Block.
That's fair. I need to use it more. And, you know, I have 100%. Done it a few times. I always feel bad when I do.
Nah, don't. Because there's some people who are like literally just bad vibes. So sometimes I see some people, and there's nothing to do with me. I just see them just be horrible to all different people. I'm saying, do you know what? I don't want to see your horribleness. Block. Get out of here, man. Yeah.
Well, thanks. You've schooled me on that. I'm gonna utilize it more. Thank you so much, man, for being part of this episode.
It's been a pleasure as always.
We're gonna get you on very, very soon.
Coming for gold.
Hopefully, it's not about Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah.
Hopefully, things have healed.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay. Thank you for making it this far to the conversation. If you enjoyed it, you liked it, then please consider subscribing or hitting the follow button. Or if you really want to be kind, leave a review for us, and that would help the podcast be seen by more people. If you really enjoyed this particular episode, then do hit the share button. Share this link with somebody who you like. Let's spread the conversation. Let's keep having the conversation. I will see you or hear you. I don't know how to say it. Essentially, we'll catch up next week. All right, take care.
Wanna be heard from the west to the east. I worked in my craft and I prayed for my time on the scene. The man have never left my team. 19, learned the right creed. Nah, I'm not a right breed, but I might be. In my crease, Nikes, hit up my G. I'll still never sell out my theme. Well, you know about heritage, you go inherited. Don't chill with the snakes.